York's very own muscle-building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
Every week, Tyler gave the rules that he and I decided.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out. The fight is over. Fourth rule, only two guys to a fight. Fifth rule, one fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the eighth and final rule, if this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio Celebrity Series, episode number 157. Welcome to the New York Muscle Radio Celebrity Body Series. In this episode, we give you guys the secrets to getting a physique like Brad Pitt in the movie Fight Club. We've gotten so many requests on people asking us, how do you build the physique like Brad Pitt? So we decided to do a whole series of these, so we'll come out with them sporadically. We've created a free guide for you guys, and you could opt in and pick up your free Brad Pitt workout. Everything we're going to cover in this podcast today is going to be on a PDF for you. So head on over to newyorkmuscleradio.com/Fight Club to pick up your free Brad Pitt workout if you want to get that body. What's up, big guy? Pete, what's going on, man? I'm excited for this one. Yes, I love that movie, Fight Club.
I have to add to the opening quote about the rules of Fight Club because we have to have the first rule of New York Muscle Radio. Do you know what the first rule of New York Muscle Radio is?
Must talk about New York Muscle Radio.
You must tell everyone about New York Muscle Radio. That's the only rule we have here, guys.
Yeah, so just make sure that's what you do. And if you like Fight Club, it's New York Muscle Radio Club here. But yeah, we're going to talk about how Brad Pitt got his physique in line for Fight Club, and we're going to teach you guys how to get that Brad Pitt body from that movie. I mean, listen, we all know that genetics play an important role. I guess we should kind of disclaimer this episode before we go any further with we can't be held responsible for the results you're going to get. You either look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, or you can look like, I don't know, someone else.
You might look like Brad Pitt and Troy, depending on your physique, the amount of muscle you carry. You're going to get, your body's only going to get to where it's genetically limited to, but we can get you as close to there as possible if you follow the right type of nutrition and training program, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to try to dive right into it. So let's assess his physique. I should have actually pulled up a picture and had it in front of me. But in that movie, Brad Pitt, he wasn't the biggest I've ever seen him. I think he was the biggest in Troy.
Yeah,
which was another great movie, actually.
And just to give some statistics, I've heard different things. Off the top of my head, I've heard that he was 185 pounds in that movie. And I'm going to have to say, looking at the pictures, that's definitely incorrect.
Yeah, definitely. How tall is he?
I think he's around 6 foot tall. So I'm gonna say.
Is he really that tall? I didn't know he was that tall.
Supposedly, who knows? Actually, you know what? Pull it up while I go into this right now. I've heard 6 foot tall, about 185 pounds. Based on his appearance and the average person, if you're looking to get that physique for a male from the height of maybe 5'9" to 5'11", you're looking at 165, 170 pounds more or less to get that physique. Any more than that, and he's going to be carrying more muscle than Brad Pitt was in Fight Club because he's very lean, and with his shirt off, it looks like he has a decent amount of muscle, but realistically, he's not really carrying much more muscle than the average guy. He's just very lean.
You're way wrong. It says Tyler Durden stats. Brad Pitt weighed about 155 pounds at 6 foot tall in Fight Club and was around 6% body fat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if those numbers are actually accurate. 155 to 165 pounds, I'd say, is probably where he was, depending on his height, though. I mean, for 6 foot tall, that is a little bit lighter than I'd assume.
That's lanky.
Yeah, but for the average male, so forget about height for a second. If you're an average male, you're probably, maybe around 5'9" or so, let's say. You're still looking at 165, 170 pounds max, I'd say, if you're going to look like him. If you're any heavier than that, your body fat's either going to be too high or you're going to be carrying more muscle than him. So depending on what your goal is, you're not looking at any type of heavy, significant weight. 185 pounds is big compared to what Brad Pitt was in Fight Club.
Yeah, 155 at 6% body fat. I actually would say that that's not really 100% accurate too, because to me it didn't look like he was 6% body fat.
He's probably around 8, 10. I'd say. Yeah,
I would say
9.
8 to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no way. So it's definitely attainable. The good thing is, in this one, Brad Pitt in Fight Club, you could tell there was really no anabolics used in this, because this is a physique anyone could get.
Yeah, it's more the physique he has in Fight Club is more, the look is more attributed. Yeah, well, it's more attributed just to being lean. It has nothing to do with the amount of muscle he's carrying. It's just his body fat level. Like I said, most guys who just hit the gym have enough muscle to compare with Brad Pitt in Fight Club. It's just about getting that body fat percentage down, and that's really the most, I don't want to say easy, but the most simple aspect of it. But it's the thing where a lot of guys get confused and they ruin the whole process because they don't understand how to properly lower their body fat percentage while still maintaining muscle mass. So you get this kind of skinny fat look trying to get down to Brad Pitt, when the whole idea is maintain muscle mass and just burn fat, and that's pretty much the recipe for that physique. But we're gonna get into that.
Yeah. What's your favorite clip from that movie, man?
Oh, there's so many, man. I love the one scene where he talks about self-improvement, and he says to Ed Norton, he says self-improvement is masturbation. I love that quote because it's so true, and like I like to say a lot of things that people put out there on the internet, in self-help books, self-development, all that stuff. It's just mental masturbation, and the meaning behind that is basically, you could read a self-help book on how to be how to be happier with your life, and then you read the book and you don't apply any of that stuff. And you read the book thinking that it's going to help you, but you don't actually get the benefit from it because you don't apply anything. So really what you did was you just read something, got no use out of it, and it was a waste of time. So it's pretty much mental masturbation. You think you have all these good ideas, but it doesn't result in what you're actually trying to, what you intended it to.
Yeah, it's so true. I think I like my favorite scene in that movie is at the end when everything ties in. Because, in the beginning, you're like, this guy, Tyler Durden, came around. And I love when it all ties together and he realizes that it's him.
Yeah.
I love that scene when he's like, that he realizes it's him and then he puts the gun in his mouth.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I saw that movie when I was a lot younger and I didn't understand that. And then, you have to rewatch it a few times and then you realize that there's so much going on in that movie and there's so much that you have to pay attention to understand the whole storyline behind it. Because, when you're younger and you watch that movie, you just think it's this movie about this guy who's crazy and he has an alter ego and, he creates a fight club. But there's so much more that's going on in that movie.
What about the girlfriend, Marla?
Yeah.
Marla. Weird. They could have picked a hotter girl.
Yeah, I didn't like her too much, to be honest with you. I mean, she served her purpose, but I wasn't a huge fan of that character.
Yeah. All right, man, let's roll right into this. So let's start with the duration of this. So I would say it would take you anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks. And again, it's going to depend on your current body fat level. I would say your current body fat level should be about 18% to start, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you start at 18%, 12 to 16 weeks, you could get there. If you're leaner than that, then you'll get there a lot quicker. If me and you needed to get our body fat percentage down to there, we could probably do it 6 to 8 weeks, but we'd still have way too much muscle on our frame, so we'd be way heavier than that. So, it depends on what your body fat percentage is when you start.
Yeah, so definitely a requirement for this program is going to be starting at 18% body fat. If you're more than that, you need to head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com, pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code, and we'll show you how to diet down just in general, learn everything about macros, micros, how much fiber you need a day, and that'll help you get to your good starting point. I mean, you could even follow something like that. Again, when we're creating something like this, it's kind of hard to, make it a general blueprint because we don't know your body. Right. So by listening to this, you're interested in getting a Brad Pitt type body, but we just have to kind of give a general rule here, and you're going to have to learn to apply what you can and take away what you can't.
Yep.
So I would say anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks.
Yeah.
That's where I would start.
Yeah, you want to give your body enough time to lose that fat and maintain that muscle, like I said, because that's the most important thing. A lot of guys that get into something with a goal of trying to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, let's say, they're not necessarily bodybuilders. They're not necessarily too familiar with the process of how recomping your body works. So they just assume, okay, let's cut calories, let's lose weight, let's get lean, and then they end up sabotaging their results because they end up losing muscle too from dieting too hard, too fast. So the goal is you want to maintain that muscle mass by dieting down slowly enough where you're only losing about, a pound to a pound and a half a week at most for a steady period of time so that you hold on to that muscle mass.
Yeah, so you kind of jumped the gun a little bit here, but obviously you're going to need to be in a caloric deficit here in order to achieve this. You're not going to be bulking up and putting on, massive amount of weight. Like we said earlier, his physique is basically just really, really lean. So there's not that much muscle required to build this type of physique. So you're going to have to be really, really lean. So obviously you're going to be in a caloric deficit. So let's move on to the macro breakdown. So we didn't break this down into exact macros that you should be doing because, again, it's very hard to make a general macro guide for everyone listening to this because we have some people listening to this who are going to be plus 200 pounds. We're going to have some people listening to this who are under 140. So, again, we could kind of give you a breakdown here with macros, certain percentages. So we would recommend starting out with diet, again, every day, aside from 1 to 2 days a week, which we'll go over in a second. But a general rule is going to be 40% of your calories are going to come from protein. Your carbs are going to be around 35% and your fat around 25%. What would you say how many calories the person needs based on their body weight? So if you did body weight times what? You think 8 or 10?
Yeah, that's a good range, and it's so hard to give an answer on that because it really depends on what they're already taking in because you'll have people that are, let's say they're 200 pounds, but they don't even take in that amount to start because they're not dieting properly to begin with. Then you have people that are that weight and they're taking in double that. So they might not need to cut it down that much. They might need to just lower it 500, 750 calories from where they are right now. So that's pretty tough. I would say a good rule of thumb is, take your calories, try to estimate where they are right now, cut them down by about 500, start with that. And then if you lose weight, you're good, keep them there. If you don't, increase it. That's what I would do. It's very hard to give a general body weight times in calories if we don't know what you're eating already because your metabolism is going to adapt to whatever it is you're doing anyway. So if you're eating a lot of calories, that might be too severe. If you're eating too little, you might not even respond to that.
Yeah, this is where something like cracking the flexible dieting code comes into play because then you already know where you're at. But again, if you don't, I would just say body weight times either 8 or 10%.
Yeah, it's a
10 times.
Good rough estimate.
Good rough estimate for start. So again, 40% protein, 35% carbs, and 25% fat. That's going to be what you're going to be eating basically either 5 to 6 times a week. On the other 1 or 2 days, again, depending on your metabolism, you're going to do a refeed day. And we recommend refeed days. You want to talk about that? Why we do that?
Yeah.
And then I'll give the numbers.
Yeah. Let's but before we go into the refeed day, I just want to mention a couple things about the macro breakdown for the normal days. The reason that we use that macro breakdown as a pretty rough estimate is obviously with every diet you want a significant amount of protein so that you maintain your muscle mass. It'll actually help increase your metabolic rate and it'll help you burn fat with your protein. Your protein just has to be there. Obviously that's a staple. Most bodybuilders and physique athletes, we would recommend the carbs be probably a little bit higher, again, depending on your metabolism, depending on your individual needs. But with his physique, the goal really is just fat loss, and there's not a lot of muscle on his frame, and the amount of carbs you're going to need to maintain that muscle mass is going to be a lot less than if you're somebody carrying a lot of muscle. And you're not really trying to fill out the muscle as much with a ton of carbohydrates. So to ensure fat loss and to make it a little more easier without worrying too much about filling out large muscles, a little bit lower on the carbs. You could even bring the fats up a little bit, but the protein is going to stay high, and then you got to keep the calories low overall. But yeah, as far as doing the refeed days, they're really important because especially if you're in a deficit for 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is we're doing, we want to keep that metabolism revved up so that we can continue to lose weight over that entire period of time dieting down. So 1 to 2 times a week, you definitely want to do some refeed days because that's going to help keep the metabolism high. That's going to increase your insulin sensitivity. That's also going to boost leptin. It's going to boost T3. It's going to boost those hormones that you do need to burn fat that get lower as you stay in a caloric deficit. So you, like I said, you don't want to go on a crash diet, lose a ton of body fat, lose a ton of weight, and then have you stall out because you dieted so severely and you can't get lean. Because that's a problem most people have when trying to achieve a physique like that is they diet really hard, they make initial progress, but then they just can't get that lean. They're a few pounds away from where he is, but they can't reach that. That's because a lot of times they crash their metabolic rate. So we want to avoid that with some refeed days.
Do you want to get the results you've always dreamed of? Do you want coaches that genuinely care, are professional, and get back to you in a timely manner? Do you want to be stronger, healthier, and look better naked? Then let me tell you, New York Muscle Radio is definitely your answer. Since working with them, I can hardly believe the results.
They coached me through a post-contest reverse diet and all the way through to an off-season strength program.
These two fitness geniuses have pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and in the process, I have been able to make big jumps on all of my major lifts.
In 14 weeks, I added 100 pounds to my powerlifting total and smashed my first meet.
Since working with them, I've added 55 pounds to my squat, 50 pounds to my deadlift, and 20 pounds to my bench press.
And in 12 weeks, I dropped over 10 pounds of body fat and added over 20 pounds to all my lifts.
I have never had as amazing of glutes as I have training with them. So I can say, no matter what your goals are, you're guaranteed to be stronger, healthier, and let's face it, better looking if Pete and Anthony are your coaches.
So if you are tuning in to listen and learn from the huge array of knowledge these two have, or if you want to hire them as your coaches, you will not be disappointed.
New York Muscle Radio is the best in the business.
You heard it from our New York Muscle Radio clients. Do you want to join our team and reach your fitness goals? Visit NewYorkMuscleRadio.com for all our coaching programs.
Yeah, one of the other things too, before I get into the refeed day, I want to also mention, these calories that we're giving you, this percentages of breakdown for protein, carbs, and fat, they're all based on this Brad Pitt's Fight Club physique. It's not based on trying to build muscle, which we'll get into. Like, so if we do, Captain America, for instance, another time, we will, obviously the macro is going to be different.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind too. And this is just for a short period of time. If you want to try to really look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club. One of the other things too, which we probably should have mentioned too, one of the things I would mention, try to keep a picture up of that. If that's your goal and that's what you want to achieve, try to put that picture somewhere where you could see it every day and kind of visualize this. Who I learned this from actually was, you remember Jim Cordova?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I went to a seminar with him way back in the day. He's like non-existent anymore.
I know, he fell off the map, man. He was really successful in the WNBF for a long time. Had a crazy physique, man, but I don't know what happened with him.
Well, one of the things he used to do was he used to take pictures of Arnold and then take pictures of himself in that same light, same angle, same shot, and he would visualize himself as Arnold and work on his physique based on those pictures. And it was shocking because he posted side by sides how identical he was trying to get the pictures. It was insane. So I definitely think that if you take an image of someone you want to look like, let's say it is Brad Pitt in Fight Club, put that up somewhere and visualize yourself. Try to take that picture in the same light, same angle, same shot, and really visualize yourself becoming that. I think it actually works. I mean, I hate to sound like foofy like that, but it does work to some extent. What your mind sees, what your body will follow. And again, we got to talk about genetics here quick. Obviously muscle insertions are going to be different. Mm-hmm. I'm 10 times as strong as Big Pete, even in the bicep department, but the way his arms are shaped, his arms are just bigger than mine. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So you just got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, everyone's going to have a different look depending on what their genetics, are predisposed to. But that level of body fat is, like I said, is going to be the significant marker in looking like him. And, everyone could pretty much achieve that level of body fat. That's not unattainable.
All right. So the refeed days, again, 1 to 2 times a week, depending on, again, how lean you are. I would say as you get leaner, you want to move to twice a week on the refeed days. But if you're heavier, I would start with just once. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to raise your calories by 400. So let's say you're having 2,500 calories. You're going to bump that up to 2,900 calories and then follow these percentages. So protein is going to be 30%, carbs at 50%, and fat at 20%. Again, guys, you don't have to write this down. You can head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com/Fight Club and opt in there, and we'll send you the free Brad Pitt workout. It's going to have all this in there, so you don't have to memorize this. If you're listening to this, if you're at the gym, on the train, wherever you're listening to us at home, lying down in bed, however you're listening to us right now, you don't have to worry about writing it down. We got you covered. But yeah, you're basically going to be doing that once or twice a week, and that's going to help spike up all those hormone levels that do sink down when you diet. A lot of people think that when you diet, your metabolism actually speeds up, but it's actually the opposite that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason you want to change those macros slightly is the biggest thing that's going to help keep your metabolism revved up is the increase in carbohydrates. That's the big mistake that a lot of people make too. I mean, we've spoken about this so many times. People always associate fat loss with low carbs. And yes, low carbs will help you lose fat, but it'll also, it'll inhibit some of those hormones that you do need to keep your metabolic rate high. So there has to be a balance. You have to lower them to lose fat, but you can't remove them completely without sacrificing some of those hormone levels. So you're going to have to reintroduce them at a higher degree so that you do boost those back up. And in turn, you can go a little lower with the protein. That's why we lower the protein a little bit, because the funny thing, other things that people don't understand is that the carbs themselves are actually more protein sparing and muscle sparing than actual protein. So when those carbs are higher, you're less likely to burn through protein for energy sources. So you can lower them a little bit, bring the carbs up. But you only want to do that, like you said, a day or two out of the week just to get the benefit from it, then return back to low calories so you can continue burning fat.
Yeah, agreed. So that's a diet. Diet's down packed. Now we got to move on to cardio. Okay, so obviously we're trying to get as lean as possible here. We're trying to get into the, 8 to 10% body fat range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 8 to 10 is a good rough estimate.
Should write that in here on the guide here for everybody. But so again, that's the goal. So we are going to have to obviously keep cardio in there. And we recommend in this, when you're trying to get this type of physique, is high-intensity cardio. The reason why I love high-intensity cardio is because it does give your body a different type of physique. Yeah. When you do long-duration cardio, you kind of get that stringy, you still get lean, but you kind of get like a stringy look where your muscles don't look as full and as pumped. So that's why I recommend high-intensity cardio. So what we recommended here for this program is going to be 3 times a week, 10 to 20 intervals. And again, you want to explain how to do high-intensity cardio?
Yeah, so that's another thing that a lot of people do incorrectly because they associate high-intensity cardio with just going fast or going hard, which, yeah, that's one component of it. But for true high-intensity cardio, when you do the interval, which I'm going to explain what the protocol for the interval is, the requirement is to make it a true high-intensity session. The interval where you're sprinting or going all out has to be at 100% capacity. So if you're running outside, you have to sprint as fast as possible. If you're pushing a sled, you have to push the sled as hard as possible. If you're using battle ropes, you have to swing those ropes as hard as you can. So doing something like on a treadmill where you're running at the max speed, a lot of times you're going to be limited to the speed on there. So you're not going 100%, you're just going fast. The key with high intensity cardio is when you do the sprint interval, you have to go as hard as humanly possible. So you can only do that for about 10 to 15 seconds before you slow down. Your body just doesn't have the capacity to do it for longer if it's 100%. If you go outside right now and you try to sprint as hard as you can, as fast as you can, you're going to significantly slow down after about 10 to 15 seconds. Your body just can't handle it. So that's why the interval protocol for a true HIIT session should be about 10 to 15 seconds all out. So 15 seconds is a perfect goal to strive for. So let's say you do a 1-minute interval, 15 seconds all out as hard as you can, and then you follow that up with about 45 seconds of rest, so at a very, very low pace. So you have a 1-minute interval, just like that. So you can repeat that process 10 to 20 times, like we said. So 15 seconds all out, followed by 45 seconds at a recovery pace. The recovery pace could be pretty much whatever you want. Let's say you're doing sprints outside. Sprint a distance that you can cover in about 10 to 15 seconds. Myself and most people can sprint maybe 100 yards like that, so that's a pretty easy way to gauge it. Then I might just walk back. I don't necessarily time the 45 seconds, but you can. It's not entirely necessary, but as a good rule of thumb, if you're doing something like on an elliptical or a bike or something like that, where there is a timer on the machine, it'll be easier if you do 15 seconds going as hard as you can with the resistance really, really high on the bike. Follow that up, turn the resistance down, 45 seconds, a little light, moderate pace, and then repeat 10 to 20 minutes and you're done. So high-intensity cardio is really, really short duration, but very, very intense. And like Anthony said, it's really the only form of cardio that'll get you that really hard, grainy look that you'd get in a deficit. And you're not going to get that stringy, flat look. So if your goal is to get leaner and get this Brad Pitt Fight Club, you're definitely selling yourself short if you don't do high-intensity cardio.
Yeah, one of the things, too, with high-intensity cardio, the reason why it's so good is because you consume a lot more oxygen post cardio. So that's basically where you're getting kind of that quote unquote afterburn. So a little trick that I like to do with the high intensity cardio is I like to add one of those elevation masks.
Mm-hmm.
You ever try one?
I've actually never put one of those on in my life.
Well, if you think about it, the goal is, for cardio, you basically want to be sucking down more oxygen. So if you put one of those on, you're going to be sucking down more oxygen. So it's going to make the hit interval a lot harder. It's going to make you work a lot harder. So you'll be able to burn more. I mean, that might be a little bit bro science-y, but it works for me. I like using that, and it makes the cardio a lot harder. So I would definitely, as an added bonus to really burn more, I would definitely recommend picking up one of those and trying that. A lot of people, obviously that thing's been debunked, but again, you wouldn't use that for low intensity cardio. That makes no sense. So I think it does have its place for high intensity cardio, because again, the goal of high intensity cardio is to be sucking down as much oxygen as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it working for it. Like I said, I have no actual experience using it, so I can't say one way or the other. But what I can say is, if you are doing true hit cardio, even if you're not using that mask, you're going to get the benefits out of it. And I think the problem most people have is they think they're doing true hit, but they're really not. Like I said, they might set the treadmill up to the highest speed, and a lot of gyms, they just go up to 10 miles an hour, and you could sprint faster than that. Most people can. So it's not 100%. And I would say, too, just since we're on this topic, doing your hit on the treadmill is not even a good idea. I would avoid that altogether. So if we're going to talk about different ideas for hit cardio, by far the hardest, I'd say, is a mix between pushing a sled or doing sprints outside. Although sprints outside are probably the most brutal. They're also very high for injuries. So you gotta do which one you like and which one you feel comfortable with, but make sure whatever it is you are doing, you're going 100%, and you have the ability to go 100% during those 15 seconds.
Yeah, can agree more. All right, let's move on to the workout. This is the fun part of it. So again, and a lot of the guys that listen to this right now are going to be so excited to listen to this, but this type of workout routine based on Brad Pitt's body, from what we see as coaches, in order to get his type of physique, you don't have to train legs. It's not a necessity here. Your goal is not to get as strong as possible, so legs are pretty much out of the equation. So this routine is going to work, again, with, like we said, for 12 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks, again, depending on your goal, but no legs during this time, because you're mainly focusing on just getting your upper body as ripped as possible. And backing up a little bit, going into the high intensity cardio, I would recommend doing this type of a program with the battle ropes, because that will help get your upper body in shape a lot faster also. If you were to do sprints outside, you're really going to be focusing on, it would focus on mainly your legs. Even though cardio, I mean, that's right and it's wrong in one way. Even though cardio, you burn fat overall. If you do high intensity for one area, like if you did sprints outside, your legs are going to get more of the benefit from it. But if you use the battle rope, you're going to get more of a benefit in your arms.
Yeah,
so again, I would
agree. Yeah.
So I would basically go ahead and use the battle ropes for that. But again, this program is going to consist of an upper body workout 3 times a week. So this is definitely an easier type of a program that we've created on New York Muscle Radio.
Yeah, I mean,
this is nothing like the New York Strong program or the Arm program, or the Glute program.
Totally different goals. Yeah, 100%. But anybody who follows this type of routine can be sure that they'll see some significant changes, because you're not focused on just, like I said, cutting calories and just trying to get lean. You're doing the right amount of cardio, the right type of cardio, and you're using the right dieting protocol where you're going to maintain muscle mass and arguably put some on, depending where you're coming from. If you're a newbie to lifting weights, and you're just kind of getting in the gym, you're going to put muscle on too while you're doing this. So your body's going to completely transform. Some people have different ideas on how you should train or what your goal should be for, and this is not going to be the typical bodybuilder mentality, especially the way you're training and dieting. But if you're looking for a physique that resembles Brad Pitt and Fight Club, then this is the best way to get it, the fastest way and the most efficient way.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
But I'll tell you what, when I'm done, my biceps are humongous. Like that, bang!
My name is Anthony Bevilacqua, and I'm the host of New York Muscle Radio podcast. My arms have been a weak point for years. When I started training, my arms measured 11 inches. Even after many years of hardcore training, nothing would get them to grow. With the help of my co-host, Big E, we set out on a mission to gain 1 solid inch to my arms in 12 weeks.
In the greatest experiment of all.
12 weeks later, this program finally helped me get 18-inch arms. The 12-week Arm Experiment, the ultimate arm growth program, ebook, the audio book, and the workout video. pick up your copy now on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
Hey, great coffee.
Doesn't it taste good as fresh perk?
Better.
Better than those girls make at the office?
Honey, their coffee can't hold a candle to yours.
Caffeine, the world's only instant coffee that's fortified with muscle-building protein. Visit buyproteincoffee.com now.
So we're going to do basically an upper body day, a cardio day, an upper body day, cardio day, and an upper body day. The reason why and a cardio day then, because we recommend cardio 3 times a week. But we recommend doing upper body because we're mainly trying to focus on just the whole upper body as a whole. We're not trying to bring up the arms. We're not trying to bring up the chest. You know, it's mainly just getting lean. So we're focusing on the upper body equally. So let's roll into this routine, buddy. So how do you want to start this off?
Well, like you said, you're not focusing on any specific body parts because he doesn't necessarily have a ton of muscle on his upper body. He just has a decent amount of muscle across his frame. And the way to get a decent amount of muscle across your frame is pretty much just doing the basic compound movements, working the entire upper body through compound movements. I'd say in all honesty, there's very little need for isolation movement for his physique because he doesn't have any of those body parts that really stick out like that. He doesn't have big arms. He doesn't have big delts. He just has an equal amount of muscle across his frame. And compound movements are the best way to do that, to get those results, keeping things as simple as possible. So obviously you're going to need an equal amount of pushing and pulling movements to the upper body. So if you're going to do 3 upper body days a week, then I'd say focus an equal amount of time on all of those. So I would do, just off the top of my head, I might do.
So hold on. So
yeah.
Let's start off here. Let's start off with pull-ups.
Yeah.
I would recommend doing, again, because this type of body is going to rely mostly on, not calisthenics, but moving your body weight, because you're trying to, again, just get lean, and your goal is to maintain as much muscle as you have. So I would recommend starting this program off with pull-ups. You're going to do basically 5 sets to failure. So however many pull-ups you can possibly do each set, and just kind of, as the time goes, you try to beat your reps more and more. And I would recommend that. So again, if your upper body workouts are going to be different from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for the first upper body day, I would say do pull-ups, straight up pull-ups, 5 sets to failure. On Wednesday workout, you're going to do chin-ups, 5 sets to failure. And then on the Friday workout, you're going to do a close grip, like a neutral grip or a V-bar pull-up, again, 5 sets to failure. That's how I would start this off.
Yeah, arguably, that's going to cover about 90% of the work he even needs for his back. That's going to cover a lot. Anybody who gets significantly strong in pull-ups and efficient at them, they're going to see a decent amount of muscle in their biceps, their back, their rear delts. That's going to take up a majority of their whole upper body. And like we said, his physique, you can arguably build it pretty much on very, very light weights, minimal weight training, and a lot of calisthenics as well. And there's really nothing better, in my opinion, anyway, for building a good upper back than doing those heavy pull-up variations, especially if your goal is to get more of that lean physique and not trying to build a ton of muscle. So those are requirements. So with that in place, you definitely want to balance that out with pushing movements as well. So now you're talking about the back, the biceps, the pushing movements. You're talking about the chest, tris, shoulders. So I would equally put the same amount of pushing in there as you did pulling. I would try to round that out just to have a well-balanced physique. So if you want to get as basic as you can and as simple as you can, then we're talking about some bench press and some overhead press. So what I would do is I would put the same amount of pushing. Let's say you're doing 5 sets of pulling variation on Monday. I would do 5 sets of pushing with the bench press. And then I would do, if you're going to do a 3-day-a-week routine, I would have 2 of those days be vertical pushing. Horizontal pushing, like the bench press variations, and then have 1 day where it's a vertical push and overhead press. I would put that in there. That's going to round out all your pushing and pulling movements. Now you're going to have pretty much everything covered for the upper body.
Yeah. So what would you recommend? You said 5 sets to 10 reps, 8 reps?
Yeah, I would say between 8 and 12 is a good idea. So I would do 1 day, maybe the first day of the week, do 5 sets of 8 reps. Maybe on Wednesday do 5 sets of 10, and then on Friday do 5 sets of 12.
Yeah. And so we would do standing overhead press for the Wednesday workout, and then the Friday workout would be like an incline barbell press, right?
Yeah, ideally. So that's going to cover all the pressing movement planes. So you get your horizontal pressing and your vertical pressing. And that's gonna, that's not gonna leave any type of muscle imbalances with pushing and pulling right there. Everything's gonna be pretty much even. And then, like I said, just those movements alone are gonna cover the entire upper body. If you want to develop certain muscle groups more, obviously there's gonna be more direct work needed. But like I said, for his physique, that alone is a great place to start. I would say that's 90% of what you would need to achieve the amount of muscle that's on his upper body.
Yeah. And then I think from here I would go into some type of a lateral movement. I think a lateral raise of some sort would be good at this point. What do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. The pressing for the horizontal movements, the bench press, the incline press, those are going to help the delts. The overhead press is really going to hammer those delts as well, but you do need some type of isolation movement for the delts if you are going to work the lateral head a bit more, even the rear head. So you do want lateral raises in there just to have a complete shoulder development. So that would be the only thing you would need to cap off the rest of the pressing movements that are going to miss for the deltoids. So to finish off deltoids, I would put some laterals in there. You don't have to go too crazy with them too. 2 to 3 sets after you do those presses are fine, and keep the reps high. It's not a movement where you really have to go heavy on. You don't really have
12 to 15 reps is basically where you're looking at that.
Yeah, you don't have to really periodize the rep scheme either for that, because it's not a compound movement. You're just doing it to get some extra volume in there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And then I think from this point we could probably move on to arm training,
Yeah, that's honestly between your pushing, your pulling, and your lateral raises.
Unless you would add some shrugs in there.
Honestly, I mean you can, but honestly I don't see any need to, especially with like you said, the goal to get his physique and the amount of muscle he has. You can put some shrugs in there if you want to round it out, but you're getting plenty of indirect work in the traps already between doing the pull-ups, between doing the overhead press and the bench presses. You're not going to be directly training those muscle groups, but with those movements, but your traps going to get worked. I mean, lateral raises too. Indirectly, it's going to hit those traps. So you can throw those in there. I mean, if you want for good measure, if you want to throw in 2 to 3 sets of some shrugs, you can. Is it going to make or break that physique? Honestly, in my opinion, it's not.
Yeah. So I would start out with the Monday workout having barbell curls. And again, I would go with 5 sets. I would keep it a little higher rep because, again, we're staying pretty basic here. I would say between 10 and 12 reps. We're not trying to do a whole bunch of variety here. We're just trying to maintain whatever muscle you have right now. So I would say 5 sets between 10 and 12 reps. I would say that's a good one. And then the Wednesday workout, I would probably go into a seated dumbbell press, seated dumbbell curl. Same amount of reps. I would say 5. A little less, probably 3 to 5 sets.
I would say cut it down a little bit only because you're already doing a bunch of pulling with the pull-ups. So you'd be fine, even with 3 sets. You don't need to go that high.
Yeah, and then the Friday workout, I would just do, again, you're just basically trying to get variety across the whole week. So I would do a cable preacher curl, again, just to keep it light and keep an isolation movement in there for the biceps. Again, 3 to 5 sets, probably like around 10 to 12 reps.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and that's gonna be plenty for the biceps at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, too, with this program, I mean, it sounds foofy and it sounds really easy. I mean, so far we're up to 4 exercises. But this is going to be tough if you're working to failure here and and close to failure. Remember, too, you grow and you gain muscle over the course of time. And you got to look at volume over the course of the week. So let's just say, we're doing 5 sets for pull-ups on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's 15 sets for back. Total for the week. That's how you got to look at it. That's your total volume over the course of the week. It's not really one workout that does it. It's over the course of a week.
Right, and most people who train the typical bodybuilding split will do back 1 time a week. And if you talk to them, 15, 16 sets, whatever it is that they're doing, that to them, that's a moderate to high amount of volume for their workout. You're just splitting it up over 3 days. So you're not doing any less. You're just breaking it up over the course of the week.
Yeah, then I would move on from the barbell curls on the Monday workout. I would move on. Again, guys, you don't have to write this down if you didn't. It's fine. We can head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com/Fight Club, and you can pick up this free guide. Just enter your email address, and we'll send you this whole workout. So, again, I would do bodyweight dips at this point. You want to do as many dips as possible. So I would say anywhere between 3 to 5 sets, again, to failure, taken to failure. And I would focus on just doing these bodyweight for the Monday workout. And then on the Wednesday workout, I would say do bench dips to hit more of the tries. And then Friday, again, I would probably do the Friday workout a weighted dip at that point. Because dips are kind of easy.
Yeah, I agree. And dips are a very good choice of exercises for your triceps with this type of program, because like you said too, you do want to focus a little more on some body weight movements, but with the limited amount of exercises we're doing, you want to get the most out of each of them. A tricep press down or a skull crusher is a good exercise, but the dip is going to have more carryover to the overhead press, to the bench press, and it's going to work out, the chest a little more, the delts more, so you're getting some indirect work too without adding any additional volume in. So you can use that exercise and get more bang for your buck. And it's a great exercise. If we're sticking to pretty much all the compounds and the basics here, you'd have to throw dips in there just to round everything out. Damn.
Nice, Pete.
What?
I saw you checking out that girl's butt.
What? I was just checking out her yoga pants.
Pete.
I was thinking you'd look really good in yoga pants.
Uh-huh.
I was like trying to check out what brand it was. Like I was looking at her form on deadlifts. They were all messed up.
Do you think she has a nicer butt than me?
Well, it definitely doesn't look like a pancake.
Did you just call my butt a pancake?
Well, I mean...
What can I do?
You gotta try New York Muscle Radio's Glutylicious program.
Glutylicious?
Yeah, you'll finally get a celebrity booty, like all the other girls following the program.
Fine, I'll do it. But don't get jealous when other guys check out my glutylicious ass.
Glutylicious, your guide to getting a celebrity booty in 12 weeks. Now available exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down that tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
And I would finish off this workout doing hanging leg raises for abs. I would say 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps. And then I would superset that with some hyperextensions. I think that would be a good way to work the lower back and just kind of build some development in that lower back. So that's where I would go from there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think core work should be pretty much essential with this type of program, especially considering we're not doing any direct work on the legs. We always talk about this. The best core exercises you can be doing are obviously your heavy squats, your heavy deadlifts. That's really going to work your core and pretty much going to make other exercises less important. But when you don't have those in place, then you're going to have to pay more attention to doing stuff like doing hyperextensions, hanging leg raises, working the core more directly. So I think direct core work is definitely going to be essential with this program.
Yeah, and on the Wednesday workout, I would say instead of the hanging leg raises, do a cable rope crunch. Those are great. I'm trying to think of all the best exercises to do to build development in that area. So that's what I would go. Cable rope crunch, those are good. And then again, I would just superset that again with the hyperextensions. I think hyperextensions are the best back builder. I don't think you need to do anything else.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
What about the Friday workout, man? What would you do as far as abs? If you could pick your best ab exercise for the Friday workout, what would it be?
Honestly, from there, I mean, I think you could do some weighted, I would say you could do some decline weighted crunches. It's another good way to add some heavy weight in the mix too, while you're still working the core.
I don't really like those too much. I mean, I've done them obviously, but I'm not a big fan of them. For me, they hit more my hips than anything else.
I think for variety, they're good, but like I said, if you're not doing any type of heavy deadlifts, squats, and stuff like that, I think there should be a heavy weighted ab exercise thrown in there. It doesn't have to be that one in particular. You can do any ab exercise, but I think you should have one day where the resistance is high for the ab work, the core work. I do think you should challenge them with some type of heavy resistance. So you can substitute that obviously with another exercise, but you want to use one where there's some heavy resistance because, like I said, you're not getting the stimulation of the heavy squat and deadlifts.
It's one of the things that lack with these type of programs too. It's so funny because for a while I was just trying to bring up my upper body, so I actually stopped doing legs for so long. And it's not until I actually started doing legs again that I actually felt so much stronger overall everywhere in my body. It's crazy. It's crazy what happens when you do legs.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna subject your body to the heavy weight, the entire body as a unit has to compensate for it. So that's why you get that great stimulus for the ab work, the core work in there when you're doing those heavy movements. And like I said, arguably, if you're doing those heavy movements, it's going to make those ab exercises much less efficient, or I shouldn't say efficient. They're going to be efficient, but you're not going to need them as much because you are hitting the core very hard with the heavy weights.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's the guide for getting Brad Pitt's physique in the movie Fight Club. Again, heading over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com/Fight Club. Opt in and we'll send you your free Brad Pitt workout. This is the best way. So if you guys listening to this, again, hopefully you take away all the stuff that we said today and apply it to your training, whether your goal is to look like Brad Pitt or not, because everything that we said here is pretty much, you could take for any type of program that you're doing. But again, the workout program part of it is going to be more geared toward getting that type of physique.
Yep, absolutely.
I think we did a good job breaking this down, man. This was a fun one. I can't wait to get into someone a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, this was a very simple one, actually, and it's funny because so many people ask this question. Like, it's a very complicated answer, but it's a very simple one, really.
Yeah, it's not a hard physique to get. I just think that a lot of people, you know what it is? I mean, average person's probably looking this up on Google and whatnot, and they don't know how to diet. They don't have something like Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code to show them. So, again, guys, head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com/Fight Club to opt in and get this free Brad Pitt guide, because this is going to show you everything, diet, cardio, and the whole workout to go with it. So head on over there, pick that up. And big guy, I think it's your turn.
All right, guys. Pete and Anthony, New York Muscle Radio, and we're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.